Well, I will just go ahead and get us started here. Try to be respectful of everyone's time. My name is Tyler Ford. I serve as Director of Mentors with tnAchieves. Essentially, my role is to support our mentors, recruit our mentors, and make sure that everyone has the tools and resources necessary to be successful in serving their students. And I really want to thank you for hopping in today and hearing this Hardin County local data update. Really appreciate you taking the time, not only to work with tnAchieves, but also just to kind of take this interest and see how the county is doing. So really what I'm going to do is just kind of jump right in by providing a little bit of insight into the work we do, and then I'll share some data and then some additional ways that you can support tnAchieves as we work to continue this work into 2022 and even beyond then. Now, one thing I will mention, even before we kind of get into the material of today's meeting, is that Hardin County next year is going to be served by the Ayers Foundation. So they are going to be serving as that support structure for your students, supporting them in the Tennessee Promise process. And what that means is we're not necessarily going to be recruiting mentors in the community. There's still a number of ways that you can support our work and make sure that students locally as well as across the state are supported. Just kind of kicking things off, I wanted to share that tnAchieves is a nonprofit organization. We serve 90 of the state's 95 counties right now, and we've been around since 2008 when we launched in Knox County. Since we initially launched, we have had the opportunity to serve more than 440,000 students across the state. And we've worked with 71,000 volunteers since the program's inception. Every year, we work with more than 600 Tennessee high schools and 67 eligible post-secondary institutions. So there are a lot of wonderful opportunities in the college-going space here in Tennessee, and we've been lucky to support hundreds of thousands of students since our program's inception. And I want to talk about a few of the ways that we support students. Obviously, one of the things that we do is administer the Tennessee Promise Scholarship in those 90 counties. Tennessee Promise is probably really the banner piece of our work. This is the state's last dollar scholarship that provides the opportunity for high school seniors anywhere in the state of Tennessee to enroll in community or technical college tuition and mandatory fee free. This is an opportunity that not every student in every state across the country has the chance to do. And Tennessee has really led the way in this sort of initiative, which is something to be proud of. It's exciting. So this is a big piece of our work, right? Making sure students are applying for Tennessee Promise and staying eligible for Tennessee Promise. But we also understand that many of the students who receive this scholarship funding will be the first in their family to enroll in college. And as a result, that student needs a little bit of extra support in the college going process. And we provide that support in the form of a volunteer mentor, someone from their community who's there to just help them, nudge them, and guide them through the college going process. And we recruit 9,000 volunteer mentors each and every year. We also, though, feel that it's important if students are going to receive financial support to go to college, if they're going to receive local support in going to college, we want to make sure that they have access that they are giving back a little bit to the community and they have a little bit of skin in the game. And we ask them to do that in the form of community service. Every semester they enroll for the scholarship, we ask that they commit 8 hours to giving back in their community. And we'll share some statistics on what that community service breakdown looks like here in just a couple minutes. We also feel, though, that it's our responsibility to support students in not only starting college, but graduating as well and actually finishing with a degree or credential. One of the ways we work to do this is by taking some of our most academically at-risk students and pairing them with a volunteer, and offering them a summer program. These summer programs are targeting those academically at-risk students and giving them the opportunity to potentially test out of some learning support classes that they require in their first year of college. Even if they aren't able to test out during those 3 to 10 week programs, what they are able to do is build college going confidence and build a familiarity with the college going space that will serve them well when they actually do start classes in the fall. Keeping in mind that these are the students who particularly are at risk for feeling overwhelmed, anxious, concerned as they start college. providing them with this opportunity to kind of get a leg up over the summer is having a positive impact. And we'll share more on this here and kind of the data around this program here in just a couple minutes. We've also worked to identify some of our economically at-risk students, and we paired them with what we call a complete coach on our team. That coach's full-time job and responsibility on our staff is to proactively reach out to students during their post-secondary career and make sure that obstacles that student may encounter, roadblocks that student may encounter, don't become lasting hurdles for the student. And instead, the student is able to stay in school and focus on graduating. Essentially, the idea here is if we can catch those things early, the student's not going to drop out. They're not going to stop going to class. And instead, we can keep them on the path towards ultimately earning a post-secondary credential. Before we jump into that Hardin County specific data, I do want to share a little bit about the scope of our work and the students that we're serving. So as I mentioned, we currently serve 90 counties across the state. 74 of those counties are considered rural counties. 35 are at-risk or distressed counties, according to the Department of Economic and Community Development. And over 600 high schools are served by tnAchieves each and every year. We also have the chance to work with 67 colleges across the state. And I think the really interesting piece of this slide is around where our students are going to college. So as you see, 11% of our students enroll at a TCAT. That's the Tennessee College of Applied Technology. And this is actually up from when Tennessee Promise was first introduced in 2014. And we would love to see this continue going up. The TCATs represent a fantastic post-secondary opportunity for our students, right? They can start college, they can get going and get a degree or credential fairly quick after they graduate high school and ultimately enter the workforce and start earning a wage. It's a fantastic opportunity for students who want to get a credential, but also want to enter the workforce pretty quickly. 79% of our students will enroll at a community college. So certainly the popular choice for our students is the community college route. And then 10% will enroll at a four-year college and pursue an associate's degree. So a lot of excellent post-secondary opportunities, whether it's a student interested in TCAT, a community college, or that four-year college sort of experience, there are options using Tennessee Promise. And as we can see, we have students choosing all of these options. And as we, certainly, again, community college is the popular route here, but we're seeing gains in the TCAT space, and we would love to see that continue moving forward. A little bit more about the students themselves. We work with 60,000 students annually, and that represents 89% of all high school seniors in Tennessee, are tnAchieves students at one point. 78% of all first-time freshmen at our community colleges are tnAchieves students, and 86% of all Tennessee community college graduates are tnAchieves students. So what this just shows is a significant chunk of the students starting on our colleges, on our college campuses, and graduating from our community colleges are students who are at one point impacted by our programs, and we're pretty proud of that. A little bit more about the students themselves. 56% of students are eligible for federal financial aid, meaning they do tend to fall into the low income category. And 40% of our students report that they are the first in their family to enroll in college. tnAchieves, I'll tell you, this has kind of always been our target student, the first generation low income college student who may need these additional layers of support to successfully navigate the college going process. And we're always kind of waking up and thinking about how we can provide the best supports possible for this student, as well as all the other students we serve, of course. 51% of our students as well will major in health science or STEM related fields. Considering this is part of a larger economic development initiative really across the state, we're happy to see students taking these sort of fields. Certainly demand for health science right now is there, and STEM fields as well, there's demand. So we'd like to see students in these sort of fields where they can find jobs and contribute to the economy also ultimately once they graduate. Speaking a little bit about cost, $32 million is the annual cost in scholarship dollars through Tennessee Promise. But our cost here at tnAchieves is just $2.5 million to operate this program each year. And considering we're able to work with 60,000 high school seniors each year, 89% of all seniors across the state, we're pretty proud of the fact that we can do that at a relatively low budget on a statewide level. But I do want to pivot now that we've talked a little bit about our scope across the state, and just share a little bit about what this looks like in Hardin County and what the impact we've had in Hardin County is. Fafsa file rate, for example, in Hardin County, which is really a great indicator of kind of college going intent in the community, and how many students are really taking the steps they need to ultimately receive financial aid, because the FAFSA is among the most critical steps in any student's post-secondary process. This is how college gets made more affordable. In Hardin County, the FAFSA file rate is 92%, and that's much higher than the statewide number of 86%, 6 points higher. So certainly great to see so many students filing the FAFSA and taking that step locally. Speaking a little bit about community service as well. Like I mentioned, we ask every student to give back 8 hours per month, or excuse me, not per month, per semester that they're enrolled. And in Hardin County, since tnAchieves started working in the community, students have completed more than 3,000 hours locally, and 3.3 million hours have been completed across the state since the program's inception. So a lot to be proud of here. And I think the community service piece especially is one that doesn't necessarily get talked about a lot, but it's something we're really proud of because, likely in many communities, these students are giving back at higher rates than they would be otherwise. And we hope it kind of creates a culture where the students are volunteering young and continuing to volunteer even past when it's a requirement for their scholarship. So certainly love to see thousands of hours being completed locally, as well as millions of hours across the state. And hopefully, you're seeing that impact in the community as well. To hone in on a couple more Hardin County specific data points, we saw that 259 students applied for Tennessee Promise last year, more than 60,000 doing so across the state. And then we saw 55 students enroll using Tennessee Promise, and 17,000 doing so across the state. One thing I would highlight is the retention number locally. It's 6% higher than the statewide number. It's 73%. Certainly, we want to continue on a statewide level and locally as well to drive this number up and get more students staying in from their first year into their second year. But certainly promising numbers here in terms of the local retention rates. I would also add that tnAchieves does track the 3-year graduation rate for our students. Now, because we only started working in Hardin County about, I think it was 2 years ago, we don't have that data yet for the first class of students we started working with, but it is something we track in all the counties that we serve. But 6% higher, really something to be proud of as you look at how your students are doing and actually staying in school. Just to provide some more context around what this retention percentage means, 67% of tnAchieves students at Tennessee Promise eligible institutions retain. And that's actually 14% higher than their peers who are not a part of tnAchieves programming. 74% of our students at any college will retain, which is 21% higher than their peers who are not a part of this program. So, that's promising. And then as we look at graduation as well, we see that the students who are part of tnAchieves at a community college are 16%, are retaining at a rate 16% higher than their peers, which, both of these pieces, I think, speak to the power of this programming and how it's supporting students, right? When they're able to participate in this program and receive Tennessee Promise scholarship dollars, they're able to focus on what matters, and that's going to campus, it's going to classes, asking questions, and it's ultimately just staying in school and graduating. And less do they have to worry about how am I going to pay for classes this fall, or where am I going to get the support I need to overcome this obstacle. We're working to surround students with supports. We're working to make sure they have the funding they need to stay in school. And the data is showing that we're certainly making progress in this space. As I mentioned earlier, we offer those additional layers of supports for our students, those additional program layers. And I want to speak a little bit about how those are impacting our students. Like we said, we have that summer program for academically at-risk students. Those students who participate in that program are 34% more likely to retain from their first year to their second year than their peers who do not participate in a summer program. Students who are coached by a member of our staff as part of that complete model, they're 23% more likely to retain. And we also have a newer program in Knox County, which is made possible through some local Knox County dollars that proactively coaches every student in the county and offers them some additional financial support should they need it for situations like transportation or the course materials, things like that. And those students who are part of that Knox Promise program are retaining at a rate 42% higher than their peers who are not. So just as a little bit of insight, we are always, as this team here at tnAchieves, looking at programming like this and identifying additional gaps that we can fill to make sure students are staying and make sure students are graduating. As I said earlier, it's not enough just to get them into the door of college. It's ultimately, the way we can make the most progress is by making sure they get a degree, get a credential, and find a job here in the community. So these are things we're kind of always thinking about. But one thing I'll share that we're really thinking about as we gear up for 2022 is the college going rate. As you can see here, when Tennessee Promise was first introduced, we saw a really great jump in college going in the state of Tennessee. And we saw it hold pretty steady there every year thereafter. But what the pandemic has done is it's caused a pretty significant drop in college going, not just in Tennessee, not just, and actually, as we look at this too, Hardin County saw a slight increase in college going in the past year. So that's certainly something to be proud of in such a difficult year. But, this is a trend we're seeing in the state, across the country. College going is just down. And as we look ahead to 2022, we are trying to do everything possible to make sure this is an outlier on this graph and not the trend. And we pivot back up to where we wanted to be and set ourselves up to where we can, further the college going rate in the years to come. So this is very much top of mind for us as we begin looking forward and how we can shift this college going trend back in the right direction. One of the single biggest ways that communities across the state can help to make this shift is in mentoring. Mentoring is among the best ways to just support students in navigating this process. We ask our mentors to always serve 3 fundamental roles for their students: being a task manager, being a resource, and being an encourager. And I think the encourager piece, particularly in 2022, is going to be one of the key pieces in making this pivot on college going. I think many students feel a little bit burnt out right now. I think they feel a little bit tired and just overwhelmed at the prospect of now navigating college on top of navigating what has been a tough 2 years. Mentors can provide a level of local encouragement for our students that our team simply cannot. Serving 30,000 students or 60,000 students annually, we're just not able to provide that level of local support that mentors can. So it's going to be a key. In 2022, we're going to continue to ask that mentors call, text, and email their students, as well as meet with their students virtually or in person, depending on their preference. We're going to host open house style sessions for those mentors who are interested in doing so. And mentoring is going to take just 1 hour per month in 2022. So not a huge time commitment. It's going to be pretty steady to what it has been in the past. And we're going to make sure to provide mentors with all the supports they need to find college going success. On your screen, you can find a few great ways to continue supporting tnAchieves. Obviously, becoming a mentor is a great way to support tnAchieves, but you can also connect tnAchieves in the community and just tell someone in your community about the work that we're doing. Word of mouth is something we simply cannot replace, so we'd certainly encourage you to share it locally. Well, I want to thank everyone who's hopped on here today for joining us for this meeting and learning a little bit about our work. We couldn't do this work without you. And like I said earlier, while Hardin County is going to be making that pivot to the Ayers Foundation in the coming year, if we can do anything to help, my contact is on the screen. Feel free to reach out and feel free to let us know if we can ever be of assistance. But we appreciate you for joining us and receiving this local data update. And we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks.
Sorry, I had to blank out my screen a couple times, but I got the gist of it.
No, I totally appreciate you for joining us. And our other attendee hopped off, and I knew at that point that you had heard this a time or two before. So
Well, no worries. No worries. So I appreciate you. Hope you have a good weekend.
You too. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.